We mentioned earlier that the Senate has confirmed the appointment of Ola Olukoyede as chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, as well as Muhammad Hammajoda as secretary. Let's get more updates from on what's happening in the Red Chamber. I'm joined by National Assembly correspondent Tijesu Adioye. Tijesu, what were the highlights of the confirmation process today?
Well, today we saw President Tinubu's nominees make their way into the chamber to respond to questions from the lawmakers, on their areas of expertise and why they have been nominated for roles for which they were nominated for. First is Madam Halima Shehu, who was nominated for the position of CEO and National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program. She actually gave her track record of how she was in the banking sector for years and roles she, participated in, and also how she also served in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs when it was created, just to give them a basic insight into her own portfolio and why she was qualified, or why she feels she is qualified, to attain that position. And she was able to convince the lawmakers after answering some couple of questions from them. And, her appointment was confirmed, including the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukoyede. He also answered questions from the lawmakers, one pertaining to the witch hunt or perceived witch hunt of political office holders. This was a big concern for the lawmakers, including the president of the Senate, who actually narrated, an instance before the election where he believed he was witch hunted, and, a document was released to the public that could have, prevented his coming to the Senate. But lucky for him, he was able to overcome that. So they questioned him to ask if this is what they should expect in days ahead. But he was able to answer their questions and said they have nothing to fear. His own position will be to, he will be taking a more preventive approach to things rather than a combative approach. And he also aims to ensure accountability, transparency, and also improving the image of the country, especially amongst other nations. Nifemi.
Absolutely. Today, so the 10th Senate seems to be to have been up and doing with its screening and confirmation of Mr. President's appointees, but there are also concerns about just how thorough the Senate has been with this process. Is there more to this confirmation process than what happens at the floor of the Red Chamber?
Yes, Nifemi, if you follow proceedings, you will see that lawmakers are they are very thorough when it comes to this screening compared to what we had in the past. If you notice, plenary sessions actually take longer now than previously during the time of Senator Ahmed Lawan. Usually we conclude plenary sessions at 2 o'clock. If need be, maybe a 1 hour extension. But now we sit sometimes 3 p.m., sometimes 4 p.m. What I'm trying to say is this Senate has tried to give everybody an inclusive mind, to contribute. And so you see lawmakers, even if some lawmakers choose not to speak, you see the Senate president actually appointing some of them to speak if he feels that their area of expertise actually concerns that particular, nominee or something like that. So for me, observing the proceedings, it has been very thorough when it comes to screening. They don't leave anything out. They actually ask the questions that, pertain to Nigerians, pertain to the hearts of Nigerians. And also, they do their due diligence when it comes to, screening and putting these nominees on a hot seat and make sure, even when some of them actually come to appeal on behalf of these nominees, considering their area of expertise, considering their portfolios, considering their track records, and, they just appeal for the other colleagues to allow them to take a bow and go, but not all senators actually, agree to this, and they still go ahead to ask their questions and ensure that these nominees actually answer before they are allowed to take a bow and go from the Senate.
You reported yesterday about how the Senate went into a closed-door session after the chief whip staged a walkout. His protest was against what he called procedural errors on the part of the Senate president. Did you see him in the chamber today?
Yes, Senator Ali Dume made his way to the chamber today. Actually, after that closed-door session, they were able to resolve those differences. How they were able to resolve it was not made public, but we saw that Senator Ndume actually made his way back to the Senate chamber, you know, before the day's proceedings ended, and he participated, you know, with the other lawmakers when other motions were read, and even actually contributed. What it is here, you know, now the Senate is populated with a lot of greenhorns, and you know they are still getting to understand how the Senate works, including the Senate President on his part. That is why he has his principal officers to put him in line, and that is why I feel Senator Ali Ndume was coming in from, so to ensure that the Senate doesn't make any mistakes in its procedures. But of course, the way they interpret their laws and standing rules is totally left to that book. If you saw the Deputy President of the Senate actually coming to the defense of the President of the Senate yesterday with Standing Rule 16, explaining that the motion was already tendered. So it's just for them. Yes, it's populated with greenhorns, but of course there are a lot of more other experienced people that have been in the Senate for quite a while to ensure that things go as it should.
Has there been any official response from the Senate as regards allegations made by the senator representing Adamawa North, you know, after he was sacked by the court? Remember that he had figured the Senate president as being the reason why the Court of Appeal actually nullified his election. Is the Senate responding to that, you know, as a house, so to speak?
Yes, Nifemi, we already saw the special advisor to the Senate president actually respond on behalf of his principal, you know, defending his principal, saying that his principal actually knows nothing about it. The Senate as a body has not responded, but we have also seen an apology from the senator in question, Senator Elisha Abu, actually tendered his unreserved apology to the Senate president and took back his words on one of these media stations this morning, according to what we hear, that he has already tendered his own apology and taken back what he has said. But the Senate as a body is yet to respond, you know, to such allegations.
So we understand that plenary has been adjourned to 24th October, and that beginning tomorrow, the Senate will be holding its retreat. What more do you know about this retreat that is being organized by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies?
Yes, we saw the senators actually dash out of the chamber, you know, to meet up with their flights, because they are actually supposed to take off today to Akwa Ibom. That is the hometown of the Senate, the president of the Senate. They will be there for 2 days, where they will be taking trainings. Of course, you know, given what has happened in the past days, they still need to brush up on some of their legislative procedures and, you know, acclimatize with what is acceptable in the Senate. So this will be an avenue for them to network, will be an avenue for them to relax, as well as to also, you know, familiarize themselves with what is obtainable in the Senate as senators, and, you know, what is expected in their work procedures and everything that has to do with the Senate. They are going to be there from today to Saturday, Sunday, I believe, and when they will return to the chamber on Tuesday to continue legislative activities.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. I think it was the 9th Assembly, the 9th Senate, that began the January to December budget cycle with the help of the executive. When you check what time it is now, do you think that the Tinubu administration is on track to keep up that tradition?
Yes, Nifemi, I believe the president is still on track, because if you look at the 9th Senate, they actually received this document from the presidency at around October, between October. So it gives them enough time, you know, to do the budget defense, invites the heads of these agencies, the ministers, to come and defend their previous budget, how it was being spent, and how they hope, what they project, how they project to spend, you know, this budget which will be presented, before the National Assembly for its scrutiny and approval. So I believe the president is still on track, bringing this document to the Senate in October. We hope to see that the Senate, on its part, meets up with the deadline for the to maintain the January to December budget cycle by, attending to these matters. We've seen that they've put in a lot of zeal when it comes to their work. They don't mind staying long hours. They don't mind, sitting on days they don't sit. So I believe, or with what I have observed, I believe they will still maintain, this habit and ensure that they meet up with what is expected of them, because they know that a lot of eyes are going to be on the National Assembly, especially the Senate, and, they will try to meet up with this budget cycle.
We'll let you go shortly. Actually, the Senate spokesperson was scheduled to be on this program, so we just hijacked you for the moment. But before you let you go, TJSU, quickly, let's talk about the minor adjustments we've seen in the Senate leadership. The Minister of Works has now been replaced with Lola Ashiru, and also the Senator representing Ebonyi North is appointed to fill the position, or rather, I think it's the Senator from Ebonyi that is appointed to fill the position of the Deputy Whip of the Senate. Is it clear if the Senate reached a consensus on this appointment, given what we've seen play out in the previous weeks?
I believe it's the party that is responsible for nominating who should fill which position. There was no disposition to the appointments made. In fact, when Senator Onyekachin Wamboyi was appointed, when his name was announced, we saw a lot of cheers and a lot of people shaking him, before he was actually ushered to his new seat. And so there was no contention coming with this appointment. I think it was a welcome development by the Senate, being that seat of the Deputy Senate leader has been left vacant for quite a while. And, the question of who will fill that seat has been what has been on the lips of many of these lawmakers. But seeing that this has been addressed today has actually rested, some of these speculations. And I believe the lawmakers are quite enthusiastic when seeing the characters that were nominated and appointed for these roles.
Tijesu Adeoye, National Assembly correspondent, live for us in our Abuja studio. Good to see you, Tijesu.